The glass tower on 7th Avenue woke up every morning like a living creature. Lights turned on floor by floor. Coffee machines hummed. Elevators sighed. Young people in sharp clothes rushed inside carrying laptops, dreams, and loud confidence. Among them walked Aunty. Her real name was Eleanor May, but everyone called her office Aunty. Not because she was related to anyone, because she was older, calm, and always present. She arrived every day at 7:30, before the startups, before the founders, before the wives who came only when it suited them. She wore simple cardigans, neutral shoes, hair tied neatly. She smiled at security guards by name. She remembered birthdays. She remembered who liked almond milk and who hated Mondays. She worked at the front operations desk, managing visitor logs, deliveries, schedules, quiet problems. No one saw her as important, which suited her just fine. On the 32nd floor lived the future. A hot AI startup named Neonscale. Glass walls, neon signs, ambition everywhere. And at the center of that ambition stood Jason Reed, 29, founder, golden boy of Silicon Alley. By his side walked his wife, Madison Reed. Madison was 26, tall, fashionable, loud, confident. Her social media bio said startup wife, boss, energy, NYC. She did not work there officially, but she treated the office like a stage. That Monday morning, Madison entered the lobby wearing heels that clicked like announcements. She stopped at the front desk. Aunty looked up and smiled. "Good morning, Madison." Madison barely looked at her. "Is my car still downstairs?" she asked. "Yes, ma'am," Aunty replied. "Parking validation is ready." Madison rolled her eyes. "You should learn to call me Mrs. Reed. Everyone here should remember that." Aunty nodded softly. "Of course, Mrs. Reed." Madison laughed lightly. "And maybe dress a little more modern. This is a tech building, not a library." The nearby interns giggled. Security pretended not to hear. Aunty said nothing. She adjusted a stack of visitor badges and wished Madison a good day. Madison went upstairs feeling powerful. This was her world now. She told herself. She often told her friends. "I married vision. I married success. I married a future billionaire." She loved walking through the office pointing out flaws. Why is the lobby plant fake? Why does the front desk smell like paper? Why is that Aunty still sitting there every day? Jason sometimes smiled nervously. "Madison, she has been here forever. She knows the building." Madison scoffed. "Exactly. Forever people should move on." Over the next weeks, Madison started coming more often. Hosting meetings. Posting reels. Ordering staff around. Aunty watched quietly. She saw the tension. She saw the interns shrinking. She saw junior employees nervous when Madison entered. One afternoon, Madison stood at the desk. "Aunty," she snapped. "Yes, Mrs. Reed." "Why do delivery people talk to you first? They should go upstairs directly." "Building policy," Aunty replied calmly. "All deliveries are logged for security." Madison laughed loudly. "Policy. This building survives on innovation, not old rules." She leaned closer. "You know, sometimes I wonder why you are still here." The words hung in the air. Aunty met her eyes. "Because I am needed." Madison burst out laughing. "Needed? By who?" No one answered. Jason walked by at that moment. Madison grabbed his arm. "Jason, tell her. Tell her she is replaceable." Jason hesitated. "Eleanor helps a lot. She keeps things smooth." Madison frowned. "Smooth. Anyone can sit and smile." Aunty stood up slowly. Her posture straight. Her voice gentle. "Excuse me." She walked toward the back office, leaving Madison irritated. That evening, Aunty stayed late. She always did on Mondays. She reviewed maintenance reports, spoke to legal teams, checked tenant updates. In a quiet corner of the building was an office with no sign, no logo. No startup slogans. Inside that office, Aunty removed her cardigan, sat at a polished desk, and opened a folder marked Asset Review. The folder listed floors, companies, leases, revenue streams. Her signature was on every major page. Eleanor May, managing owner. She closed the folder gently. Outside, the city glowed. Inside, the tower hummed. Madison posted a story that night. Office Aunty drama. Some people do not know when to retire. The comments laughed. Fire emojis. Boss wife energy. Aunty did not see it. She was at home making soup, calling her sister, asking about her grandson. The next morning, Madison arrived energized. She had a lunch meeting with investors. She wanted the building to impress. She stopped at the front desk. Aunty looked up as usual. "Good morning, Mrs. Reed." Madison smiled thinly. "I want fresh flowers in the lobby. Real ones. Charge it to neon scale." Aunty nodded. "I will arrange it." Madison leaned in. "And tell the security to stop calling you Aunty. It sounds cheap." Aunty smiled. "They call me that out of respect." Madison laughed again. "Respect is earned." Aunty looked at her steadily. "Yes, it is." That afternoon, the flowers arrived. Expensive, elegant. Madison felt victorious. But something else arrived too. An email marked confidential, sent to all tenant founders. Subject: Building Ownership Review Meeting. Madison ignored it. Jason read it twice. He went downstairs. "Eleanor," he said quietly. "What is this meeting?" Aunty smiled at him. "Just routine." Jason swallowed. "Why does the sender name say Eleanor May Holdings?" Aunty met his eyes. "Because that is who owns the building." The color drained from his face. Upstairs, Madison laughed with friends. Downstairs, the foundation of her confidence cracked. And Aunty returned to her desk. Calm. Silent. Waiting. Jason stood frozen for a moment at the front desk. The lobby felt louder than usual. Footsteps, echoes, elevator chimes, conversations blending together. Eleanor sat calmly typing something on her screen. Her hand steady. Her face unreadable. Jason cleared his throat. "Eleanor, I think there must be some confusion." She looked up gently. "There is no confusion, Jason." He lowered his voice. "You mean the building ownership email? That was really from you?" She nodded. "Yes." Jason laughed nervously. "But you work here. You sit at the front desk." Eleanor smiled. "I choose to." His mind raced. Neon scale. Investors. Madison. Her constant jokes about the building. Why did no one know? He leaned closer. "Why did you never say anything?" Eleanor replied softly. "No one ever asked." Jason walked away shaken. He entered the elevator, pressing the 32nd floor button repeatedly like it would speed things up. Upstairs, Madison was filming a reel. Sunlight through glass walls, laptop in hand, coffee perfectly placed. She noticed Jason's face. "What happened? You look like you saw a ghost." Jason closed the office door. "Madison, we need to talk." She rolled her eyes. "Make it quick. I have followers waiting." Jason spoke carefully. "The building. The owner. It is Eleanor." Madison laughed loudly. "Stop joking. That front desk auntie." Jason did not smile. "She owns the entire tower." The room went silent. Madison blinked, then laughed again, sharper. "Jason, you are being ridiculous." Jason pulled out his phone, showed her the email, the signature, the corporate records link. Madison snatched the phone. Her fingers trembled slightly. She scrolled. Read. Scrolled again. "This has to be fake," she said. Jason shook his head. "It is not." Madison stood up suddenly. "That is impossible. Someone like her." Jason replied quietly. "Someone like her what?" Madison stopped. Her lips pressed together. Downstairs, Eleanor handled a delivery dispute calmly, signed a document, smiled at a courier. She felt the shift in energy before she saw them. Madison stormed toward the desk, heels sharp, eyes blazing. Jason followed behind, unsure. "You lied to everyone," Madison snapped. Eleanor looked up. "Good afternoon, Mrs. Reed." "Do not call me that," Madison said. "How long have you been pretending?" "Pretending what?" Eleanor asked. "Pretending to be nothing." Madison laughed bitterly. Eleanor stood slowly, her presence suddenly heavier. "I was never pretending. I simply did not announce." Jason whispered. "Madison, please." Madison ignored him. "You let me talk to you like that? You let everyone disrespect you." Eleanor replied calmly. "That was their choice." Madison scoffed. "You enjoyed watching me look stupid." Eleanor met her gaze. "I watched you reveal yourself." People nearby stopped pretending to work. The lobby held its breath. Madison leaned closer. "So what now? You going to fire us? Kick us out?" Eleanor smiled gently. "No." Madison blinked. "No. This building exists because of innovation, dreams, and risk," Eleanor said. "You and Jason worked hard. That matters." Jason exhaled. "But respect also matters," Eleanor continued. "And that has been missing." Madison's face flushed. She opened her mouth, then closed it. Eleanor turned to Jason. "We will talk later." She returned to her seat, ending the conversation. Madison walked away furious. Her phone buzzed constantly. Messages from friends. Screenshots of her story, comments changing tone. Somebody replied, "Is that Aunty really the owner?" That night Madison could not sleep. She replayed every word she ever said. Every laugh. Every insult. Meanwhile, Eleanor attended a quiet dinner with legal advisors. Discussed lease renewals, future renovations, community programs. She mentioned Neon Scale. They spoke about leadership, stability, and culture. The next morning a memo went out. Mandatory tenant leadership meeting, auditorium level 5. Madison read it 3 times. Her hands cold. Jason tried to reassure her. "Just be calm. Apologize." Madison snapped. "I do not apologize to receptionists." Jason replied firmly. "She is not just that." The auditorium filled with founders, executives, partners. Eleanor walked in not as office auntie but as owner. Same clothes. Same calm. Different energy. She stood at the podium. "Thank you for coming." Her voice carried. "This building has seen startups rise and fail. I believe in innovation but not arrogance." Eyes shifted. Some glanced at Madison. "I began my career as a receptionist," Eleanor said. "I learned every role, every weakness, every strength. I built this tower floor by floor. With patience." She paused. "Respect is not about titles. It is about character." Madison felt every word hit. Eleanor concluded, "We will be introducing a culture review across all tenants." Murmurs spread. After the meeting, Madison approached Eleanor quietly. Her voice low. "I did not know." Eleanor looked at her. "Knowing is easy. Learning is harder." Madison swallowed. "I am sorry." Eleanor nodded once. "Good." The apology was small, but the shift was permanent. Madison stopped coming to the office for 2 days. She told herself she was busy. Meetings, calls, personal branding work. But the truth was simple. She was afraid. Every notification on her phone felt heavier. Every comment carried judgment. Jason went alone. For the first time he noticed things. How people greeted Eleanor. How maintenance waited for her nod. How decisions flowed quietly from her desk. Eleanor never changed. Same arrival time. Same calm smile. Same neutral voice. But the building had changed. People whispered differently. Not about her. About Madison. On the third day, Madison returned. She dressed carefully. Muted colors. Lower heels. She walked past the front desk without stopping. Eleanor greeted her. "Good morning, Mrs. Reed." Madison paused. Turned back. "Good morning, Eleanor," she said softly. Eleanor smiled. "Good morning." The name tasted strange in Madison's mouth. Less power. More reality. Upstairs, Madison tried to take control. But something was gone. Her voice no longer dominated rooms. People listened politely, then looked to Jason. Investors asked new questions. About leadership, culture, stability. One investor asked, "Who is overseeing building relations?" Jason answered honestly. "Eleanor." The room nodded. Approval settled. Madison felt invisible. That afternoon, an intern made a mistake. Madison snapped, raising her voice. The intern froze. Eyes filled. Eleanor happened to walk by. She stopped. "Madison," she said calmly. Madison turned sharply. "What?" "Lower your voice," Eleanor said. "Fear does not build companies." The intern exhaled. Madison clenched her jaw. "You do not tell me how to run my space," Madison said. Eleanor replied, "This is my building, and everyone inside deserves dignity." Silence followed. Jason stepped in. "Madison, enough." Madison looked at him, realizing something cracked. That evening, Jason confronted her at home. "You are losing people," he said. Madison scoffed. "They were never loyal." Jason replied, "No, they were never respected." She threw her phone onto the couch. "So now you side with her?" Jason answered, "I side with what works." Madison laughed bitterly. "I helped build your image," Jason said quietly. "And she built the foundation." The words stayed. The next week brought consequences. A brand deal Madison expected vanished. Another influencer unfollowed her. Rumors spread fast. Startup wife drama. Power play gone wrong. Madison tried to post again, but comments changed tone. "Where is your humility? Respect the auntie. Know your place." She deleted the post. Meanwhile, Eleanor met with founders. One by one. Listening. Advising. Supporting. She never mentioned Madison. Never complained. Never blamed. Which made it worse. Madison felt judged without accusation. One afternoon, Madison saw Eleanor teaching a junior employee how to handle a difficult call. Patient. Kind. Something twisted inside her. "That should have been me," she thought. Madison approached Eleanor slowly. "Why do people listen to you?" she asked. Eleanor looked at her. "Because I listen first." Madison swallowed. "I never learned that." Eleanor nodded. "It is not too late." Madison almost laughed. Almost cried. That night, Madison stared at the city skyline. The same city that once made her feel invincible, now made her feel small. But small was not the end. It was the beginning. She messaged Eleanor. "Can we talk?" Eleanor replied simply, "Tomorrow morning." Madison did not sleep. Madison arrived early the next morning. Earlier than she ever had before. The lobby was quiet. Sunlight soft. Coffee smelled gentle. Eleanor was already there, reviewing papers. Madison stood awkwardly, waiting. "Good morning, Eleanor," she said. "Good morning, Madison," Eleanor replied. They walked together to the small office behind the lobby, the one Madison had never noticed. Eleanor poured tea. Simple. No rush. "Sit," she said. Madison sat. Her confidence nowhere to be found. "I do not understand you," Madison said. "You let me humiliate you." Eleanor stirred her tea slowly. "I have been underestimated my entire life." Madison listened. "I grew up poor," Eleanor said. "Single mother. 3 jobs. I started as a receptionist at 19. I watched men half my skill rise faster. She smiled faintly. So I learned patience. I learned systems. People. Money. I bought my first property at 30. Second at 35. Madison leaned forward. No one saw me. Eleanor continued. Which made it easier. I built quietly. I invested quietly. I waited. Madison whispered. Why stay here? Eleanor looked at her. Because buildings reflect people. This place needed balance. Madison looked down. I wanted to be seen. Eleanor nodded. That is not wrong. But demanding attention destroys respect. Madison exhaled shakily. I am scared. Eleanor met her eyes. Of what? Of becoming nothing, Madison said. Eleanor reached across the table. You are not nothing. You are unfinished. The words settled deep. Later that day, Eleanor announced changes. Mentorship programs. Leadership coaching. Mandatory respect policies. Madison was included. Not excluded. Some whispered. Special treatment. Eleanor corrected them. Equal opportunity. Madison attended every session. Silent. Listening. She learned names. She learned roles. She learned restraint. Jason watched quietly. Proud. Relieved. One afternoon, Madison apologized publicly to the intern. No speech. Just sincerity. The intern nodded. Forgiveness simple. That night, Madison posted again. No filters. No glam. I confused power with volume. Learning silence. The comments shifted. Support replaced mockery. Eleanor watched from her office. Satisfied. Transformation was slow, but real. The crisis arrived without warning. A major tenant on the 24th floor threatened to leave. A cybersecurity firm worth millions in rent. Their reason? Toxic culture. Leadership instability. Public perception issues. The news spread fast. Jason panicked. Investors called. Deadlines tightened. Madison felt the weight immediately. For the first time, not as image damage, but as responsibility. Eleanor called an emergency meeting. Jason. Madison. Legal. PR. She looked at Madison. This one is yours. Madison froze. Mine. You caused the perception problem. Eleanor said calmly. Now fix it. Jason opened his mouth. Eleanor raised a hand. She needs this. Madison swallowed hard. I will handle it. She spent the night researching, reading emails, learning complaints. The next morning, she met the tenant leadership alone. No camera. No assistants. She listened. She did not interrupt. She took notes. They expected defensiveness. They got humility. You are right, Madison said. We failed in culture. Silence followed. She outlined concrete steps. Policy changes. Transparency. Personal accountability. She did not mention Eleanor. She did not shift blame. By evening, the tenant stayed. The building exhaled. Eleanor called Madison to her office. You passed, she said. Madison exhaled. Thank you. Eleanor corrected her. You did the work. That night, Madison walked through the lobby. She stopped at the desk. Thank you, she said. Eleanor smiled. You're welcome. Respect had replaced fear. The attention came from outside this time. A business media outlet released an article. Startup Tower Power Clash. Receptionist turned owner humiliates influencer wife. The headline spread everywhere. Madison woke up to messages. Some supportive. Some cruel. Eleanor read it quietly. Sipped her tea. Said nothing. By noon, reporters gathered outside the building. Cameras. Questions. Assumptions. Jason panicked. This will scare investors. Madison felt the old urge to post. To fight. To defend. She walked to the front desk. What do we do? She asked Eleanor. Eleanor looked up. We tell the truth. A press conference was arranged in the lobby, the same place Madison once mocked. Cameras rolled. Microphones pointed. Eleanor stood first. Simple. Calm. I was never humiliated, she said. I chose silence. This building was built on patience, not ego. Then she stepped back. Madison stepped forward. She felt her hands shake, but her voice stayed steady. I disrespected someone who deserved none, she said. Power taught me nothing. Humility taught me everything. Reporters leaned in. I am not the victim here, Madison continued. I am the lesson. The room went quiet. Questions followed. Accusations. Probing. Eleanor answered when needed. Madison answered when required. No blame. No drama. That evening the article changed tone. Influencer wife owns mistake. Real leadership shown. Investors called back. Tenants stayed. The storm passed. Madison sat alone later. Exhausted. Eleanor joined her. You did well, she said. Madison looked up. You let me stand alone. Eleanor nodded. That is how growth happens. Madison smiled softly. For the first time without performance, months passed. The building felt different. Lighter. Stronger. People smiled more. Listened more. Rushed less. Madison no longer announced herself. She arrived early. Left late. Worked quietly. She learned systems. Contracts. People. Not for image. For substance. Eleanor watched from a distance. Proud. But never hovering. One morning Eleanor called a building-wide meeting. The lobby filled. Founders, interns, guards, executives. Eleanor stood where Madison once stood loud. But Eleanor stood calm. This building will enter a new chapter, she said. Gasps followed. I will step back from daily presence. Eleanor continued. Leadership must evolve. Eyes searched. Madison stepped forward slowly. Heart racing. Madison Reed will oversee culture relations and mentorship across all tenants, Eleanor said. Silence. Then applause. Madison looked shocked. Tears held back. I trust growth, Eleanor said. I reward accountability. Madison spoke. Voice steady. I once believed power was taken. Now I know it is carried. The crowd felt it. Later that day, Madison returned to the front desk. The same place where it began. She placed fresh flowers. Not for show. For respect. Eleanor arrived as usual. 7:30. Cardigan. Smile. Good morning, Eleanor. Madison said. Good morning, Madison. Eleanor replied. Two women. Different journeys. Same strength. Outside, the glass tower reflected the sky. Inside it reflected growth. And the story spread quietly. Not as scandal, but as legacy.